over to Lieutenant Siebenborn this morning.
Good morning, Lieutenant Andrew Siebenborn, Siebenborn. I'm the Support Services Lieutenant, and one of the sections that falls underneath me is our traffic crash team and our traffic crash investigators. As many of you are aware, there's a very serious traffic crash that happened this weekend. I'm here to speak a little bit and provide a little bit of update on that. On Saturday, April 27th, 2024, at about 6:08 in the morning, Metro Communications received a phone call of a traffic crash near the intersection of East 18th Street and South 2nd Avenue. Preliminary reports was that it was a single vehicle accident with multiple people involved in the crash. Police, fire, EMS all responded to the scene. Reference the accident. Unfortunately, there were 2 fatalities because of the crash, and we are able to release their names. The first fatality, last name is Reeves, Reeves. First name Milana, Milana. Middle name Murray, Marie. 15-year-old female from Sioux Falls. The second deceased on scene was last name Hopkins, Hopkins. First name Eric, Eric. Middle name James, James. He's a 15-year-old male Sioux Falls resident. Besides the 2 that were deceased on scene, there was also 5 other patients involved in this traffic accident with varying degrees of injuries, ranging from serious to critical, but stable. The ages of the other 5 people that were in the vehicle that were transported from the scene, 13, 14, 15, and 2 17-year-olds. I can tell you from having responded to the scene with my team, this was a catastrophic scene. There was multiple ejections from the vehicle, and a great response by police, fire, and EMS, and some neighbors who helped render aid initially. Because of the seriousness of this crash, we've got a significant investigation in front of us to reconstruct this accident, determine how it occurred, what contributed to these events, because the cold hard reality is we've got 2 deceased and 5 seriously injured, and we will do our absolute best to make sure that this gets investigated to the fullest extent. I've also been in contact with Minnehaha County State's Attorney Daniel Hager, reference this, and as the investigation continues, any applicable charges that do become available, we will seek to hold all responsible parties accountable in regard to this crash. We can definitively say, at a minimum, the speed was a contributing factor to this crash. We are also looking into whether alcohol and drugs played a factor as well, but that we have to wait for toxicology, all that good stuff. But we do have evidence on scene, including video evidence from nearby locations, along with witness statements, that we can definitively say a very high rate of speed was one of the contributing factors to this crash. Also wanted to dispel a couple rumors that were floating around. This is a single vehicle crash. There was absolutely no other vehicles involved. There wasn't 2 vehicles chasing each other. Law enforcement was not involved in this in any way, shape, or form. It was a single vehicle crash that led to this. Should be noted that during the crash, the vehicle did crash into a home, a residence near this location as well. Everyone in that home is accounted for, and there was no injuries from those that were in the home at that time. And you look at the ages of those involved, and additionally with those that are deceased, it's a tough day for a lot of people, a tough weekend for a lot of people in this community. for schools, for friends, for families. Anyone who dies in a car crash or just dies, period. It's a tough thing, but I think particularly when it's youth in our community, it hits a little bit. It hits a little bit harder as well. So I just ask that our thoughts and prayers go out to those affected and those in the community. Make sure that you lift up those as well. I'm prepared to stay in for any questions, and I'll try to give you any information that I have that I can speak for certainty on.
With multiple ejections, were there seatbelts? Do you know?
The question was, with multiple ejections, was there seatbelts involved? At this time, I don't believe a majority were wearing a seatbelt, but how many and not. But I think it's safe to safe to say that that seatbelts weren't being used by most.
Is that still the range of injuries, what you described, serious to critical but stable? Is that still where those injuries are, to your knowledge?
The question was, are the injuries still what I stated? That I do not know. As far as updates, the one update I can give is, at least at this time, we do not believe that we run the risk of another fatality being referenced to this traffic crash.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what the crash looked like, as far as, was it in an intersection? Was it somebody driving down a straight road going fast speeds?
Question was, can we tell you a little bit more about the crash and where it occurred? The crash happened on the northeast corner of East 18th Street and South 2nd Avenue. 18th Street is a fairly straight road. There's some dips, as you cross the particular streets, but the vehicle eventually leaves the road, traveling eastbound into that northeast corner home location. It strikes a tree, and then strikes the house, and then spins to a degree, and then ends up coming to rest a little bit to the east of the intersection. There's photos, I think, that that made it out online, but obviously the entire front of the vehicle was collapsed in. The entire driver's side of the vehicle was pretty much removed from the vehicle. I can tell you, just for a little bit of perspective, I've been doing this job 17, 18 years, and I certainly can't think of an accident that I've been to that's been more catastrophic than this. This was a very, very, very serious scene, and quite frankly, very tragic that we lost 2 lives in this, but also an absolute miracle that we don't have 7 deceased in this, if you look at that vehicle.
You were among the people there that night. How do you guys deal with something like that?
There's a lot of things that the department has in place. We have a peer support team. We've got EAP through the city, so we're very. I would like to say our department is at the tip of the spear when it comes to dealing with the trauma that our officers potentially see. And this was a very traumatic scene, whether you're a police officer who's been doing this 2 years or 20 years. Lot of stuff involved, and so we've got the resources in place. We reach out. Even this is one of the things that K9 Leo can get involved in as well, to make sure that we're touching base with the officers, making sure that what they saw is not necessarily normal by any means, and then making sure that we're taking care of render aid and take care of those on scene first, but then also render aid and take care of specifically, I'll speak to the police department, take care of our officers and making sure that any trauma or mental health needs that can stem from something like this is also taken care of. We take that very, very, very seriously.
How are you doing?
I will say this. I was there after a majority of this happens. It's I will, in a weird way, I say my team, the officers on scene patrol, we take a lot of pride in what we're going to do to reconstruct this event and get as many answers for the families involved in this. That's just a small way we can assist in this matter. So we want to make sure that we investigate it to its fullest extent, hold those accountable that need to be held accountable, and then give family members as much information that we can as far as facts surrounding the events that not only happened at that moment, but also led up to that moment as well, because we're confident that there's some things that need to be looked at too about how we got to here at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Where are you at as figuring out who was behind the wheel?
We're really in the preliminary stages, and we're drafting warrants where necessarily needed. We're working with speaking with those that were inside the vehicle, and we also believe that there's witnesses and such potentially that would be able to assist us in that matter that weren't in the vehicle as such. So we're in the very preliminary stages, and as that comes up and as potentially charges become necessary, we'll work with the state's attorney's office and report that back to you.
Where did your initial 911 call come from, or your initial 911 calls? Was it witnesses?
Witnesses, yep. From neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yep. I believe there was one of the first calls came. There's an alley very near that location. There were some subjects that were in that alley that heard a loud boom, and they initially thought it was gunshots, and then they looked out front and they saw what had actually transpired. And that's we kind of do this as a part of our job. I don't want to say that it's tough for us, but I think for someone who's not under the scope of law enforcement, fire, EMS, and you're that neighbor in there, and you come out and see that, it was again very catastrophic, very graphic scene, and I just want to make sure that those people, if they're listening as well, know like there's stuff out there to reach out and help you if you're to deal with what you had seen, and kudos to them for doing their best on that scene and reaching out to the number of people involved. Awesome. I'll turn it back over to Officer Clement. Thank you.
Okay. Just really got one thing of note, but this was under the aggravated assault. This was early Sunday, about 2:40 a.m. is when the call came in. A couple of different calls about gunshots happened. The first one was in the 1000 block of West 11th Street. We had a report of several different gunshots. Officers were in that area. Sounds like at least one of the reports, there were some people that may have been kind of running away, and so they were walking around that area. And then about 18 minutes later, so about 2:58 a.m., the officers heard several gunshots again. This time they came from the 1300 block of West 11th Street. They went over to that area, and as they were, starting to kind of arrive and check things out, somebody from a house came outside and said that the house had been shot. There's actually a bedroom that bullets went into, and we had a 17-year-old girl. There's a couple of people in the room, but a 17-year-old girl was, we believe, probably grazed by a bullet. No serious injuries with that, didn't need any type of medical attention, but several bullets went through the wall, through the outside wall, into the bedroom. And anyway, she was the one that came out initially and reported it. We did have some shell casings that were found outside. We've got some information to follow up on, but really at this point we don't know why that house was targeted, or if in fact it was a specific target or just a random shooting. We're still working on that, but that was pretty much it without any questions on that.
Do we know what kind of gun it was?
A handgun. Yeah. I don't know what that noise is. Any other questions on that? Okay. The other aggravated assaults really are just reports, a lot of threats, some domestic cases as well, but no serious injuries from anything. The burglary, we had a couple of apartments and then a storage unit. Disorderlies are all kind of random things, but nothing big. The embezzlement was some merchandise taken. Family offenses are reports. Frauds, larcenies, those are all reports, nothing big out of any of those. We've got pornography, and then 2 rape cases and a sex offense. All those are reports, no arrests on any of those. Nothing suspicious with the unattended death. There's a suspicious vehicle in the log that was created in error. I think it was like an unlicensed driver or something like that. So nothing serious there. Vandalisms, nothing concentrated, and the weapons violation is basically one of them involves juveniles. The other 2 were people in possession of guns that weren't supposed to, but nothing. The guns weren't used, weren't fired or threatened or anything like that. That's all I have. Any questions?
Back to the gunshots. Are you guys looking at camera footage in the area?
Yeah, we hadn't located anything at this point, but that's one of the things detectives always look for is any cameras. That the home surveillance systems are becoming more and more prevalent, and so they're very useful in investigations like this, especially when we don't have a whole lot of information. So I guess if people are in the area, if they have a home surveillance system, check it out. If you see anything, let us know. You can always call Crime Stoppers too if you want to be anonymous. Anything else? Okay, thanks.